Steve Jobs' last words were, wow, wow, wow. 3 wows. And when I heard that, it gave me goosebumps. And as a medium, I've always investigated, been curious about, and connected with the aspects of existence that we can't see. But in that moment, I had this intuitive knowing that what he saw and that what we all might see when we cross that threshold is the full existence that has been up until the point when we pass, falling into place as though puzzle pieces fall from the sky in thought form and create the big picture of existence, so that everything we've ever experienced in life, everything everyone else has ever experienced in life, things we can know, things we couldn't know, people we know, people we don't know, people who lived before us and passed before we were born, people who will live after we are dead. It all falls into place like a waterfall of information, like hieroglyphs landing in place on a huge sheet of information and creating the answer, the big picture, the truth, what all this is, what all this means, why, all of it. And in coming to that noetic understanding, I realized that even though it appears that spirit communication and mystical experiences are nonlinear and are very circuitous in their ways of revealing themselves to us, in fact, they are pieces of a much larger whole. And even if in the current circumstance we cannot know what they mean on their own, the way they fit into the big picture, they do fit into the big picture. They just do. And it is our job, whether we call ourselves mediums, although I believe we are all mediums and all capable of spiritual communication if we so choose to pursue it. But whether we are mediums or not, whether we are spiritual or not, it is our mission, individually, each of us, to find our piece of the puzzle and bring it to the table. And most of the time it is spiritual people. It is people who are pursuing their connection to the unknown, to spirit, who are able to come closer to their piece of the puzzle because it's part of the gift of curiosity that they carry. But as more and more of us bring our noetic wisdom, that intrinsic part of us that we know to be true without any proof, without any scientific evidence, we just know it to be true. If we bring our piece to the table, we are fulfilling our mission. And in so doing, we are helping humanity to witness the full purpose of our presence here. And the most important thing to remember is what William James said. William James coined the phrase noetic wisdom, and he studied mystical experience as a philosopher. And he taught that it was very important for every individual to treat their mystical experience as legitimate and valuable in its own right. He had some definitions of mystical experience that were namely around the idea of mystical experience being ineffable, having no words, being transient, something that happens briefly and then leaves, of it being something that happens to us rather than something that we can force to happen. And there are other definitions, but he spoke of the importance of treating those mystical experiences as being our true reality. And he came to me today. I called him in and asked his energy to share more about this. And this is what he shared. He brought through the idea of Steve Jobs and my experience of that and what that can mean. And the whole purpose of this idea of treating our mystical experiences as valuable and legitimate in their own right is so that when we pursue that wisdom, when we pursue those experiences, when we make ourselves present and open to them, it fulfills our mission to bring what we know to be true to the table. It doesn't mean that anybody else has to know it to be true. Just like there are many paths to God, many ascended masters and many religions lead to the same God. It's the same with this. My noetic intuitive wisdom might not match yours. That's okay, but I'm going to bring mine to the table. And if you bring yours to the table, and he brings his to the table, and she brings hers to the table, then we create the big picture for one another. We fulfill our mission. We bring our unique individual fingerprint to existence, to the narrative of who we are, why we are, and what we are. And we find peace and wholeness. And eventually, we will see the big picture.